Hey everyone. Hey Mel. Hey K-Braze. Hey Linda. Hey Jen. What's up? I'm trying to keep up with this as best as I can, and I have a lot of family stuff going on, so I'm gonna try and at least go live every night and recap something. So if I can get this done pretty fast, hey Jim Johnson, and it's not too late, I may end it and go right into a Gannon Stalk recap, but we'll see. Not making any promises yet. So the Vallow trial has been pretty eventful so far. They have gone over a lot of crazy information right away. They had some pretty big yeah, this is not my thing. I usually take forever to get stuff out, so it may not happen. I'm very detailed with stuff, but I'll try. So I listened to the Vallow opening statement, and then I'm probably going to do recaps through tweets and stuff that I put together because I saw some of it, but I haven't been able to listen to the whole thing because I am also listening to the Stalk trial every day, which is taking up a lot of my time, and I'm trying to keep up with the Orna Norse and West trial too, but it's a lot all at once. Like all these trials all at once, it's a lot, and we have a lot of stuff going on at home, so I'm doing my best. All right, so I will start with opening statements, which I think were really good. DA Lindsay Blake did the prosecution's opening statement, and I pretty much almost wrote it down word for word. I cut a little corners, but I will basically read it off to you. It's pretty close to hers. I cut a little bit of corners, but not that much. So she says, money, power, and sex. That's what this case is about. Lori used money, power, and sex to get what she wanted. She took the life of J.J. Vallow, a 7-year-old vibrant child. Now, in her words, she basically just said he was a handful, most 7-year-old boys. But I'm adding that he also had autism, and she also said that it took a lot of time and effort and energy to take care of him. Yeah, same here, Mel. It's hard. I've been trying to catch up every night. My allergies are bothering me so bad the past 2 days. I'm like dying. It's been like super nice here, and I'm just, I couldn't even like breathe last night. I had to take Benadryl to go to bed. So if I sound scratchy, just bear with me. So she wanted to devote her attention and time to Chad Daybell. When JJ lost his father, he became more difficult to care for. JJ was also entitled to Social Security benefits. She didn't want to take care of him anymore. She wanted money, and now he's gone. Tamara Daybell, aka Tammy, a 45-year-old mother of 5, a grandmother, a computer whiz by all accounts, was married to Chad Daybell. Lori wanted Chad all to herself, and Chad was the beneficiary of a life insurance policy of Tammy's, and now Tammy is gone. The last known sighting of Tylee was on September 8th, 2019. She had just relocated to Rexburg with her mom on September 1st. Now, I believe that sighting was the photo of her at Yellowstone Park with the family. The last time Tylee was seen was July 9th, 2020. She was found buried in a shallow grave on Chad Daybell's property. What was left of her charred remains were found, described as a mass of bone and tissue. That's what was left of this beautiful woman. Her DNA was found on a pickaxe and a shovel located in a shed on Chad Daybell's property. Hey, Devil. Here we go. JJ was last seen on September 22nd of 2019 at the defendant's apartment in Rexburg, Idaho. He was last seen with the defendant's brother, Alex Cox. You will hear a witness say Alex was carrying JJ. It appeared JJ was sleeping at the time. JJ was last seen on June 9th, 2020, also in a shallow grave. JJ was found wrapped in garbage bags with duct tape around him. It was wrapped around his head and his arms. Nobody expected to find this. I do remember reading the other day, maybe a week ago, that he was potentially still alive when they buried him. I'm not sure if they got to that yet in the trial, so I'm kind of curious if that's true. But if that is true, that is just absolutely horrible. And it's disgusting, and they're just the most terrible humans in the world. Besides Letitia Stalk, she's pretty terrible too. Hey, Lynn. Tammy was last seen alive on October 18th, 2019. Her son left for work. She was home alone with Chad Daybell that night. On the morning October 19th, a 911 call is placed. Tammy is dead, cold and stiff. Chad moved her body. He says Tammy wasn't feeling well. She had been sick. It was unknown at this time that JJ and Tylee were missing. Nothing about Tammy's death was deemed suspicious. The defendant was in Hawaii, but 17 days later they were getting married on a sunny day while JJ and Tylee lie cold in their graves. Obviously, this all left so many questions for everyone. Defendant switched Tylee's money to her bank account on August 16th of 2019. Tylee went missing in September of 2019. She also started receiving benefits on JJ's behalf before he was last seen, and she continued to collect those benefits to fund her lifestyle. Yeah, K-Brace, I do question what happened with Joe Ryan too, so. We will hear about many dates and events. It all starts in October 2018 when she met Chad Daybell for the first time. They had an instant connection. They shared religious beliefs, that they were married before in another life, and they were meant to be together. I'm pretty sure they called each other James and Elena. That was their previous. Was it James and Elena? That was the previous life together. That's who they were in a previous life, I guess. They believe they were prior figures from the Bible. Chad wrote a story based on their real events. They were both married at the time, and now both of their spouses are dead. They told people about a rating system that follows of light and dark, and they used to rate people. And it evolved into something dark and evil. To them, an evil spirit can force that person out of their body and take it over. So basically, they're saying they developed this rating system to rate people if they were lights or darks. And Chad said he could see, what they were, and he would rate them, 4 dark, 4 light. He would just he rated I'm pretty sure he rated her whole family, but when he rated her children, Tylee and JJ were dark and Charles was dark figures. And then so at first they thought that they started doing this thing called casting, I believe it was called, which they believed that prayer and energy could take this dark entity away from their body. And then time and time again, that didn't work. So it, to them, evolved more to that the person was so dark or evil that they became a zombie. And you can't cast a zombie out of the body, so the body had to be destroyed. And they used their teachings to justify all of their actions, from their affairs to killing their family. Hold on 1 minute. I didn't get to listen to Archibald, but I'm gonna get notes for it. So hold on. But I felt like that was a really good opening statement. I feel like she covered everything really well and laid it all out really nicely. Did you see that News Nation put out that Lori? Oh yeah, somebody said that she was asleep. She also tried to leave, which is just so crazy to me. So apparently, which I'll get to, but I'll just talk about it now for a minute while I'm doing this. She got really upset during the one they were showing where they found the bodies and doing the autopsy photos, and she was crying and she freaked out. And they had a sidebar, and then they took a break because she was freaking out, and it caused all this commotion. Everyone was wondering what was going on, why she was crying, why she was making this huge deal. And basically, she requested that she can be dismissed from court for the rest of the day, because I guess she didn't want to have to see the pictures, which I think is kind of bullcrap, And the judge wasn't having it. He said he felt like that she needed to be there, and made her say, and she was, they said she was like crying and I guess upset about it, but I was like, man, she got some nerve, like trying to leave her own trial because she didn't want to look at the stuff that they did. You know what I mean? Now I get it. Like, even if Alex was the one who did that stuff, you can't tell me that she didn't like have a hand in it. You know what I mean? Hold on 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry. All right. Oh, she got money. All right. So she was getting money from Tylee's. I guess Tylee got payments from her dad dying. Like, she would get a monthly amount of money. And she transferred that money into her own account that Tylee was getting and was collecting it. And then JJ, she was receiving benefits for JJ and still kept collecting them. Also, Charles, her husband, had a life insurance policy out, and she thought she was going to get like $1 million from that, but he knew that she was losing it and that she was, cuckoo, and he protected himself. Well, he couldn't protect himself in the long run because he was killed, but he protected JJ and the money by giving his money to his sister, Kay, who was JJ's biological grandma. So Kay Woodcock's son is the biological father of JJ. He wasn't able to care for him, and Kay was the sole, parent, I guess. And then Lori and Charles approached Kay and asked her if they could adopt JJ because I guess they wanted another child, or maybe they couldn't have one. And Kay said, sure, as long as, she still had like grandparents' rights, And so they did. His name was actually, his birth name was actually Canaan. They talked about that in court. But so luckily he knew better, and Kay got the money. Also, Tammy Daybell had an insurance policy out on her, and they got the money for that too. So, yeah, it was all, it was all planned out for money and things like that. You know what I mean? It was definitely very well planned out. Okay, hold on. All right, so the state also revealed in their opening statements that the cause of death for Mr. Daybell's ex-wife, Tammy Daybell, police initially believed she had died of natural causes, yet when Mr. Daybell got married a short time after her death, they reopened the investigation and exhumed her body, and they revealed that Mrs. Daybell died in a homicide from asphyxiation. Oh, it's so hard for me to say. Anyways, that came out a few months ago, but apparently a lot of people didn't know that. When the Daybell kids did the interview, they put it out there, but a lot of people didn't know that that's how she died. She was murdered for sure. They also charged that Mr. Daybell moved the body before the responders arrived. They also frequently brought up Mrs. Vallow Daybell's deceased brother, Alex Cox, her self-professed protector, who was found dead in 2019, soon after the first Mrs. Daybell was exhumed. His death was ruled to be of natural causes, which I still question because he was their fall guy. You know what I mean? And it's just so convenient. And he sounded like he knew he was going to die. Cox was the one who shot and killed Charles Vallow, Lori's estranged husband, in self-defense, and a cell phone was detected in the area of Tammy Daybell's home the day that a masked gunman confronted her in her driveway. So now we have, a couple days before Tammy was killed, somebody shot at her, and she thought that it was somebody with a paintball gun. And here, Alex's phone was detected in the area of the home that day. So clearly it was, in my opinion, it was Alex. Wonder if that was just a money move back then for adopting him. I'm not sure. Well, I know Charles really, like her husband, really, really, like JJ was his baby, I didn't know Charles had two older sons who were also present in court. Oh, yeah. Chad is being charged for Tammy's death, for sure. And he was the only one in the room with her. So, I don't know how he's going to get out of that. The prosecution seemed to paint Cox as a possible accomplice. Mrs. Blake told the jury that a day before he died, Cox told his wife, "I hope I'm not their fall guy." Defense counsel R. James Archibald opening statement was short by comparison and focused on the specific charges to his client. He urged the jury to focus on the case at hand and not the media attention and the controversy the case has garnered. He also provided an alibi for Mrs. Vallow Daybell and the deaths of her two children, claiming she was in a separate apartment with friends when the children were killed in an apartment owned by Cox. It also claims that she was in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell was killed. So clearly, her defense is making Cox the fall guy. The defense also touched on the controversial religious beliefs of the defendant, but downplayed its role in the charges. Thankfully, in this country, we can worship how we choose, Mr. Archibald said. And then the first person who was called to the stand was actually Kay Woodcock, which I thought was pretty crazy, like that they jumped right in. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Kay Woodcock was the first witness. Give me 1 second. I wonder if... Sorry, I have like a million things up. You can listen to the audio of it, but it's long, so we'll just break it down in short. All right, so let me find Kay Woodcock. All right, Kay Woodcock testifies. Following the defense, Kay Woodcock was called to the stand as a witness. So again, she explains how everything came about. That she really liked Lori, and she thought that she was a doting mom, and she was just a doll. You know, she said a lot of nice things about her. And she said that her son had JJ, but JJ's name was actually Kanan. And they could not take care of her son, could not take care of him. He was, having issues. I don't know if it, I don't know what they were. I don't know if it was like, drug issues or whatever. But Kay basically took on the role of his mother, but it was hard for her because he was autistic, and it was a lot of work. Lori and Charles wanted a child, and they came to Kay and said, hey, like, we would like to adopt JJ. So JJ was born under the name Kanan, and then his name was changed after he was adopted to Joshua Jackson Vallow. Woodcock said one condition of his adoption was that she and Larry Woodcock would maintain access and maintain their role as grandparents. They saw JJ every chance they could. Kay Woodcock got along with Charles Vallow, her brother, and Vallow Daybell was just a doll. When we saw each other, it was like we hadn't missed a day, she said. Hey, LFT. Where was I? Kay Woodcock said things began to change in 2019. She said she went to visit JJ in Chandler, Arizona around February 1st of that year because Charles Vallow had reached out saying he and his then wife had split up and she was gone. During that time, Kay didn't see Vallow Daybell at all. Vallow Daybell was gone for 58 days, according to Kay. She never reached out to JJ. She never reached out to Charles, Woodcock said from the witness stand. She said by June, her brother was planning for divorce. Kay Woodcock said that after her brother's death, she had contact with JJ on 3 occasions, but said something was off about the calls. Usually, JJ held the iPad or device in his own hands and would talk, while in these 3 calls, it was evident someone was holding it for him. Each of these calls was very short. The last call was on August 10th, 2019. So not even a month later is when he was last seen. He again was not holding the iPad or the device, and he just said, hi, Mama, hi, Papa, and then looked up at whoever was holding the device and said, gotta go. And that was it, Kay said. After that, they were unable to ever get in contact with JJ and never heard from Vallow Daybell, according to Woodcock. Prosecutors show a photo of JJ and Woodcock and broke down in tears. She gets emotional after she's given a picture of JJ that she took. Rob Wood, the prosecutor's questioner, asks who it is, and she said, our beautiful grandson, JJ. She tearfully replies, says it's always been one of her favorite photos. The prosecutor asks if Woodcock concerned about the whereabouts of JJ. She says yes, because Lori didn't want him anymore. She was asked if anything happened that alerted her to Lori's whereabouts. Kay explained on November 8th she noticed Charles' Gmail icon on the computer screen. She signed into the Gmail account using a password she knew and found an email from Amazon confirming a delivery to Vallow Daybell's apartment in Rexburg a few days prior. So she had no idea where Lori was at all, and she just happened to come upon this email in Charles's email, and that's how she got the address. She said, I was shocked at what I found. She said the browsing history showed a beach wedding dress, a bathing suit, a large linen top and pants, and malachite wedding rings. When asked, hold on. So I learned before that Tammy Daybell had passed away on October 19th, and this was her, Vallow Daybell, looking at wedding rings and wedding stuff, which obviously that's so soon. It was like she was looking at wedding rings on October 2nd, which was before Tammy was killed. So clearly they had planned the wedding already. So that's kind of shady. Like, why would she be looking up wedding stuff before Tammy Daybell was killed? Defense attorney John Thomas asked why Woodcock didn't want to adopt JJ. We really wanted to adopt JJ, and we could have provided him a good home. But speaking with Charles and Lori, they just had their atmosphere was a lot more conducive to a baby. She said he had issues. In Lake Charles, there were no special schools for children with disabilities, and we knew that was going to be a concern at some point. And then next on the stand was Brandon Bordeaux. I think that's how you say it, Bordeaux. That is Lori Vallow's niece, Melanie's ex-husband. So Melanie was like a Lori's number one supporter. You know what I mean? Like, she was all in. She was totally all in with Lori and her bullshit. He was questioned by Rachel Smith for the prosecution. Bordeaux said he got to know Charles and Lori very well and spent a lot of time together. He started crying and he choked up as he described the friendship between his oldest son, Braxton, and JJ. I think JJ looked up to him a lot and they spent a lot of time together, Bordeaux said. JJ wasn't super interactive. He had autism, so he wasn't always incredibly interactive, but he seemed to love hanging out with my kids. Yes, Lynn? Bordeaux. I always say it wrong. Knew Tylee as well. When she turned 8, she decided to be baptized a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Charles wasn't comfortable performing the baptism, so Bordeaux said he was asked and honored to do it. Melanie, the niece. Okay, not Melanie Gibbs. So Melanie Gibbs was her friend, which she was all in for a little bit too. But Melanie Bordeaux or whatever, that's her actual niece. She was married to Brandon, but they divorced. Brandon is testifying right now. So the niece's ex-husband. Bordeaux knew Tylee as well. I'm probably totally screwing up that name, but I'm doing my best. When she turned 8, I said that. She decided to be baptized. He was honored to do it. Brandon gets emotional. So birth certificates for Tylee and Ryan, a picture of Tylee in her teen years. Defense objects to Instagram photo because witness didn't see it personally. Admit it for illustrative purposes, not evidentiary purposes. Brandon gets emotional when asked where he was when he learned that missing kids, Tylee and JJ, were found. He said, I was in my parents' garage. He has to repeat it for the court because he choked up. It was the day before he was married. He went the next day to Rexburg. I spent a lot of time with Tylee as well. I watched her grow up. I watched her grow into a teenager. Brandon Bordeaux and his wife, Melanie Bordeaux, got along well with Chad and Vallow Daybell. Melanie, she kind of had an affinity towards Lori. She looked at her less like an aunt figure and more like a mom figure, Brandon said. Charles and I both had a passion for sales and business. We both loved our families, so it was easy to spend time together. He said the relationship began to change in 2018. We just didn't feel as close, he said. Around the same time, Melanie's interest and dedication to her religion increased. He called her beliefs extreme and said they even had a disagreement at one point about buying thousands in food storage right away. So I'm guessing she wanted to start preparing for their end of the world or whatever. and she wanted to buy a bunch of food storage, and he wasn't down for that. He says, Lori influenced his wife Melanie to become more religious. When we first got married, my wife's religious level was low. Brandon says later she was more interested in church. She attended events outside of church organizations she called firesides. The firesides, they talked about the firesides. The firesides were these like events that Melanie and Lori went to, but Brandon and Charles weren't really invited to them. They were like, the religious like meetups or whatever. He said, it kind of got more bizarre. Over the next few months, Melanie and Brandon Bordeaux fought over her new beliefs. After a fight on June 25th, 26th, Brandon talked to Charles. I kind of felt like he was the only person who knew what I was going through because he had also gone through those things. He said from the witness stand, it was the last time they spoke. He began the divorce process in July, and then in October 2019, when Brandon arrived home. All right, so this is literally in the same month where Tammy Daybell dies. He arrives home, and someone in a car in front of his house shot at him. At the time, he had only lived there a few days, and only 5 people knew he lived there, his neighbors and his estranged wife. Brandon heard the bang, and his window shattered, at which point he pushed on the gas and drove around the corner while calling 911. He met with law enforcement and a detective. As I was thinking about it, I realized Tylee had a Jeep that Charles bought her. I guess they object. The judge overrules the objection, but warns the prosecution that evidence needs to come in later supporting allegations. Brandon recounts the shooting. He saw a Jeep Wrangler with a Texas plate, no back tire, saw a gun. He heard a bang, and his window shattered. He says Tylee had a Jeep with Texas plate, so he provided VIN Charles previously gave to him to police. After the shooting, Brandon began to dig for information. He remembered some of the things Charles had emailed him and found information on the religious fireside groups. I know, me too, Lori. Had emailed him and found some information on the religious fireside groups that would meet. It made me really mad that Lori's lawyers tried to get Kay and Larry kicked out of the courtroom so they couldn't be witnesses, so they couldn't watch it. Some info was from Chad Daybell, so Brandon Googled his name. That's when he found an obituary for Tammy. He said, it made me really nervous because how I was feeling, my nervousness, I reported it to law enforcement because in my gut, I knew something felt wrong. Hey, Melissa. At the same time, he began to look into the case of Tylee and JJ and realized nobody had seen them. A photo of Tylee was shown. Vallow Daybell looked up at the photo and Tylee and looked away. Brandon remembers the moment he heard JJ and Tylee were found. I was in my parents' home in the garage, he said twice for the court to hear him clearly. He joked up. It was the day before my wedding. He went to Rexburg. He said he felt he needed to be with the Woodcocks because it was so overwhelming for them to identify JJ. He volunteered to do so and said he knew him well. Oh, that had to be rough. Defense attorney John Thomas cross-examined him. Thomas asked about the shooting incident and how far his car was from the Jeep when the shot went off. Brandon said the car was parked approximately 20 to 30 feet away, but said he is positive that the shot came from the Jeep, not a stray. He did not see a muzzle flash, but he did see a silencer. It's not possible the shot came from anywhere else, though, Brandon said. And that ends day 1. And then let me pull up day 2. There's a lot more for day 2. So, all right. So I believe first on the stand, I think it was Detective. I don't know how to say this. Hermilo. Wait, hold on. Apparently, there was nobody there for Lori. The Vallow Woodcocks have family members here, and John Pryor showed up. The jury is in. Lori watched as they all filed in, and Detective Ray Hermosillo is being called to the stand. Hey, Amory. The jury ranges from ages late 20s to 60s estimate. So Ray is a detective with Rexburg PD, 22 years in law enforcement and 4 years as a detective. He became involved on November 1st after being contacted by Fremont County to locate the Jeep used in the attempted murder of Brandon. He talked to Gilbert PD, who asked them to seize the Jeep and perform intermittent surveillance on the residents. They took photos of Lori and Chad walking into the townhomes. He never saw Tylee or JJ with Lori. And this is November, so we know they were already gone by then. The children were already dead at this point, and Hermosillo wasn't aware of JJ and Tylee and wasn't looking for them. They got the Jeep November 4th. He first heard about JJ from Gilbert PD when they came up to serve a warrant on the Jeep for GPS. During that visit, Rexburg is when he learned of JJ and Tylee. They were told Kay was concerned she hadn't talked to JJ for a while. Kay and Larry were going to check for JJ in Arizona. On November 25th, 2019, he got a call from Detective Ryan Pillar from Arizona saying they hadn't found JJ. At this point, Kay asked for a welfare check, and that was done the next morning. The next morning, they go to the townhomes. And this was crazy, guys. Wait till you hear this. Outside the garage area, they found Alex and Chad, who were emptying a truck. He asked Alex if Lori was home, and Alex said no. He asked about JJ. Alex got a blank, frightened look and looked at Chad, and they both looked at each other. He again asked Alex if he knew where JJ was, and Alex said in Louisiana with Kay. I'm just going to say Ray because I can't say his last name. Detective Ray said unlikely because she called this in. Chad and Alex looked at each other. Alex was asked how to find Lori, and he said apartment 107. Alex was asked for Lori's phone number, and he said he didn't have it. Detective Ray knew they were close, and he assumed Alex was lying. Detective Ray and Dave Hope went to apartment 107 to find Lori, and she wasn't home. Detective Hope began knocking on doors next to apartment 107, and Detective Ray was at his car calling for backup. He saw Chad driving towards him. He stopped Chad and asked when he last saw JJ. Chad said October in apartment 107 with Lori. Chad said he had only met Lori a couple of times, which is ridiculous, and barely knew her. Detective Ray knew Lori and Chad were married 2 weeks prior. So at this point, they're married. And Chad says he barely knows her. Detective Ray asked Chad for Lori's phone number, and he said he didn't know it. Detective Hope came over to where they were, and Detective Ray asked again for her number, and he gave it. He said he felt they were accusing him of something, and that's why he didn't give it at first. Detective Ray called Lieutenant Ron Ball and says something's going on with JJ due to their demeanor and lies. They brought some detectives to the townhomes to assist. Dave Stubbs and Lieutenant Ron Ball was there. They knocked on several doors with no luck. Lieutenant Ball told Detective Ray to go to the prosecutor's office to get a search warrant for the townhomes while the officers stay there. They didn't get the warrant that day. On the way to the prosecutor's office, Detective Hope got Lori on the phone and convinced her to open the door to her townhome. So she was there the whole time, not opening the door. There was a body cam recording of the interaction. There's a sidebar about hearsay. Lori is writing in her legal pad. Is attentive. Some are taking notes, but everyone is hyper-focused on testimony of Detective Ray. Sidebar's over. After watching body cam, he contacted Detective Pillar with Gilbert PD since they were unable to locate JJ. It was late evening with no answer where JJ was. He had Detective Pillar get in touch with Melanie Gibb. November 27, 2019, they met at the prosecutor's office to get a search warrant for the townhomes where Lori, Melanie, the niece, and Alex live. So they all lived in that apartment area, but just in different apartments. They started with Lori's apartment first. When they initially went in, They had to break down the front door. They got in, and there were dishes in the sink, couches, food in the pantry, beds upstairs, all but no clothes on hangers and closets, and that caught their attention. Nobody was there in the townhomes. They left during the night. They found some toys on the front step and a suitcase under the stairwell and an old prescription for JJ. Oh yeah, we definitely need a flowchart. That was all they found of JJ's. In Lori's apartment, they also found several guns in the garage of Lori's townhome. Army-type knives, empty magazines for various weapons. They even found a ghillie suit. Like, why would they, like, what are they hiding in bushes? Like, I guess so. Maybe he's hiding in the bush when he tried to kill Tammy. I don't know, but why the hell would they have ghillie suits? They next searched 174, which was Melanie Neese, and 107's Alex. Alex's unit was completely vacant. In Lori's apartment, there was a rental agreement for a storage unit in Rexburg with Lori Ryan as the renter, so she used her old last name. C52 was the unit. They got a search warrant for the storage unit. Inside were kids' toys, blankets with photos, photo albums, a bike, and a scooter. They show the photos of the search warrants. They also introduce photos of the inside and outside of the townhomes. Pictures of the busted down door. And they were asked what they were looking for, and they said J.J. Vallow. There was a small crawl space and found JJ's suitcase and food storage in there. A dining area, a kitchen island. Below TV is a crawl space. Inside residence, front room, the exterior of townhomes. Photo looking from upstairs to the bottom floor. Master bedroom, Lori's room, neat and orderly. A walk-in closet, Lori's. Bedroom with Alex Cox's belongings. In Alex's room, 2 Tyvek suits in the closet found in a storage bin. So pretty sure Tyvek suits are those, like, you know, the ones they wear in Breaking Bad when they make the meth that are like the ones that like cover your whole body so you don't get like DNA on anything or you don't get blood on you or whatever. They found 2 Tyvek suits in the closet in a storage bin. A photo of a rental agreement for a storage unit under the name Lori Ryan. More exhibits were brought in. They ask if the items were staged, and that's not how they found them. He says correct. So they, placed them to take pictures, I guess. These items were in tubs and bags, so they got emptied to take photos. A ghillie suit, magazines for ammo, guns, suppressors, and silencers. Black trash bags full of clothes, papers, ammo rounds, different caliber, rifle, end of rifle is threaded for a silencer. There was another rifle found in the bag, 2 silencers found in the garage, several tactical knives, a loaded handgun, a Halloween mask that was creepy on top of a plastic Walmart bag, rope and duct tape inside of a bag. Alex Cox's passport, which was still active, printouts of emails from Chad to Lori. There are written notes on the printed emails, 3 of Chad's books, a white Apple phone. Lori was whispering to Mr. Thomas occasionally as the exhibits were shown. The next step in the investigation, they contacted the FBI. They wanted to get a hold of Lori and Chad, locate the children, and speak to the family. They talked to Colby, Lori's oldest child, and he said he hadn't talked to Kylie in a while. She became a part of the investigation. They also tried to contact Chad and Lori after the search warrant, but didn't know their location. December 11th, 2019, they called the National Center for the Missing and Exploited Children to enter JJ and Tylee's information. They went public with the missing kids and set up a tip line. There was an action filed for JJ and Tylee in Madison County. He wrote the affidavit. Lori was ordered to produce the kids to Rexburg PD. They found Lori and Chad in Hawaii through cell phone data tips from the hotline. Detective Ray went to Kauai to assist local police with the order. She was served January 25th, 2020. While they were there, they assisted Kauai PD with the search warrant of their rental vehicle and a rental condo. Kauai PD performed the search warrant. Detective Ray was present during. Inside the condo was normal furniture, clothes, beds. Appeared adults lived there. They found nothing of JJ and Tylee's at the condo. he says and Rob Wood said, what is considered proof of life? And he says any documentation that would prove someone is still alive. The last date for Tylee of proof of life was 9/8/2019, and that was the photo of Tylee at Yellowstone. And let's see. They had photos of the Jeep Wrangler used in an attempt on Brandon, the back of Jeep with spare tire on and Texas plates, interior from driver's side and passenger side. They bring out documents found in the garage of the townhome. The emails from Chad with the email address of chaddaybell@gmail.com. They talk about proof of life again. They bring in some exhibits. Lori's iCloud was Lori for style, and this was a long-established account for her. They had a sidebar about Apple records coming in. Photos of JJ, Tylee, and Alex in Yellowstone, and a photo of JJ sitting on the couch in red PJs, which was the last pic of JJ. There was metadata with the Yellowstone photo showing 9/8/2019. They show the photo of JJ in red PJs on the couch 9/22/2019. These are the last proof of life for Tylee and JJ. He worked with Fremont County in their investigation and attempt on Tammy Daybell on 10/9, as well as the death of Tammy Daybell on 10/19. They executed a search warrant on 6/9 on Chad's property. So this is, I believe, when they find the bodies. First thing they did, 7 a.m., was make contact with Chad. His son, Mark, answered. They told Mark that they were there for a search warrant and needed to talk to Chad. Mark said Chad was asleep. They walked to the stairwell of where Chad's room was. They walked up and announced themselves. Chad sat up and they told him about the search warrant. He got dressed and went to the kitchen area. So I'm confused. Was this... They weren't in Hawaii anymore, I guess? Chad asked to contact his attorney, Mark Means. Mark Means asked to talk to someone, and he was referred to the prosecutor. Chad reviewed the search warrant. His kids were on the couch, and Chad in a recliner. His kids said they would leave, and Chad wasn't sure if he was leaving or not. He asked to make a call from his vehicle. The car was backed into the driveway. The FBI ERT team arrived with other detectives. They began marking off areas in the backyard, setting up for the search warrant. The agencies were FBI, Fremont County, Rexburg PD, the Attorney General's office. Chad sat in the car. Does anyone know if Lori was arrested at this time? Because she didn't produce the kids. Right, Jen? I know. Chad sat in the car. Detective watched Chad as he sat in the driver's seat on the phone. He was looking over his right shoulder. He would talk a second and look over his shoulder to his right. Investigators positioned themselves to see what Chad was looking at. They saw he was looking at a tree and a pond area where JJ's body was found. So Chad just over here giving away all the details by what he's looking at. After that, Detective Ray was given certain tasks by the FBI ERT team. Detective Ray was told to sift through the fire pit. A lot of people went to the pond and tree area, and they were told to go assist there. They will publish some photos. This is a Google Earth photo of Chad's residence to aid the jury in orienting themselves to the locations of interest. Thomas asks if Detective Ray has done a flyover of the property, and you looked up and saw the sky. You don't know what the property looks like from the sky. Judge overrules. I guess it was an objection. They're showing the Google overhead photo to the jury. At the pond area, they saw longer grass and weeds in the 4x2 section with shorter grass with dirt showing. So clearly that's the spot. Yeah, so she was. I figured, because I was like, why was Chad at his house if they were in Hawaii? They skipped that part where she was arrested, I guess. Like, they didn't say that, but that would make sense why Chad was home with his kids and, Lori's in jail. So the FBI ERT team began marking off the area and getting it ready to excavate. As the excavation took place, he saw the ERT team remove the top layer of soil, which exposed 3 large white rocks, and they noticed a strong odor of a decomposing body. They removed the rocks. Under the rocks were 2 pieces of wood paneling, which were removed. They could see a difference in soil which looked moist. The ERT team slowly brushed away the moist soil. Once they removed the soil, they saw a black round object protrude from the dirt just a few inches deep and looked to be the texture of a plastic bag. They removed more soil and saw what looked to be the crown of a head protruding. They exposed a small body wrapped in black plastic. The top of the plastic was cut into near the crown of the head. Sorry, guys, I should probably say now because it's already, I should have said it before reading that, but trigger warning if, I know we all do true crime and most of us, hear this regularly, but if anyone is sensitive to this kind of stuff, I would leave for a few minutes. But the ERT leader made a slit in the plastic. It exposed a piece of white plastic. They cut that and saw what looked like to be brown human hair. At that point, they were told Chad was leaving his daughter's residence at a high rate of speed. Chad was pulled over and taken into custody. At JJ's burial site, all dirt was removed. The body was photographed, measured, and removed from the burial site and into a body bag and put in the coroner's van. They didn't remove the black bag covering JJ's body. Lieutenant Ron Ball and Detective Ray followed the coroner's van to the morgue. They went back to Chad's residence to help with further excavation. They also searched the fire pit pet cemetery area. Detective Ray takes a laser pointer and points out both burial sites for the jury. Lori is listening to him, and she really didn't have any emotion at all. He says that the area was known as the pet cemetery. It has a black dog statue that helped them identify the area. When he got back from the morgue, the ERT team had already began excavating the pet cemetery. I guess they knew where to dig for that because of the text about that Chad sent to Tammy saying that raccoon thing, that he buried a raccoon. At that point, Detective Ray walked over to the pet cemetery and watched as they found items. Detective Ray and others got on their hands and knees and dug around the moist section of dirt. They started to uncover burnt flesh, charred bone. The smell was of a decomposing body. They took turns digging due to the smell being so bad. They found bits and pieces of Tylee that were burned, charred flesh, globs of flesh that were falling apart. They kept digging and found a round glob of flesh, bone, and put it in a green bucket that was melted. The flesh and bone was all kind of stuffed in that melted bucket, so they dug around that. They got down to the bottom of the mass, and the goal is to lift the mass on a tarp or body bag. Oh, this is terrible. They found a partial human skull under the melted bucket. They tried to lift it out, but it broke apart because it wasn't being held by anything. They had to go in and remove the pieces out of the hole. On June 9th, they had to stop working due to the time and decided to secure the scene for the night. They had it roped off, and it was guarded by officers. June 10th, they returned to the property and went back to where Tylee's remains were found, continuing to remove all parts and pieces out. Once they dug further, there were other bits and pieces as well as teeth. Her remains were put in a body bag and transported. The next part of the investigation, once they removed Tylee's remains, they would take JJ and Tylee to the Ada County Coroner's office for the autopsy the next day. I agree too, Linda. Yeah, it's crazy. It's weird. Brenda Dye was one of the people who picked the remains up. She was the coroner the night Tammy Daybell was murdered. They are going to publish crime scene photos. Photos shown of the front of Chad's house the morning of the search warrant. Detective Ray shows that with a pointer what he saw when he looked in the direction Chad was looking at. The next photo is the fire pit. They located burnt bone fragments and teeth. Photo looking towards the tree where JJ was found, buried underneath. They show the difference in grass where JJ was found. They show a photo of the crown of the head wrapped in black plastic. Photo of the black bag cut, exposing the white bag. They show JJ's body wrapped in the bags. They show the grave that was dug after JJ was removed. It was in the shape of how his body was placed in there. Lori is looking down while it is being shown. Some jurors look uncomfortable with what we have seen so far. The soil is moist, and you can see an outline of his body where the decomposition was occurring. Nothing else was found buried there. Judge, and then they take a break. And Lori's attorney asked to have a privacy talk to Lori. They said she had just been brought back up and needed to talk to her. There was a quick sidebar. We are extending our lunch break a few minutes. People have asked how Lori was leaving the courtroom. She had her arms crossed and her head kind of down. Seemed like she was emotional about something. Still not back from their discussion yet. Lori's attorneys came and got the prosecution, and they went into a room hallway behind the judge's bench. Both sides came back in and left. They take a 30-minute recess. Everyone's all abuzz, wondering what is going on. Many saw Lori crying. The state is back in the courtroom. No sign of Lori and the defense team. Tension is high. All right, so Detective Ray is still on direct. Lori's in the courtroom waiting on judge and jury. We've been told the next round of photos are graphic. Both sides have gone back into the room again. They called the deputies back. They're standing in the doorway talking. The state is coming in. Rob Wood doesn't look too happy. The state is huddled, talking at their table. The defense is back in the room, but no sign of Lori yet. Lori's back in the courtroom finally with arms folded. Judge Boyce says an issue came up and had been advised of a situation that needs to be argued outside the presence of a jury. And Lori has a request. Like, Lori, we don't care about your damn request. Like, it's her trial. What request do you get? Mr. Archibald says Lori wishes to waive her presence at the testimony for the remainder of the day. What a joke. Like, listen, lady, you ain't leaving your own trial when you cause all this crap. Sorry, but just not having it, you know? Archibald said that this morning was emotional for her. He mentions her fragile mental state. Lindsay Blake is arguing that she should be in, as she should be. Blake says this isn't the first time Lori has asked not to be present. The state would ask for jury instruction if she is allowed to not attend this afternoon's testimony. Lori is looking down and has a bit of a red face. Archibald says jury instructions would be premature. He has to reserve ruling on that. Judge Boyce says he has researched it over lunch. Judge Boyce says the court has the authority, has the right to override the request of Lori to excuse herself, and he finds that her presence should be required. So, yes, take a seat, Vallow. Sit your ass down, girl. You ain't leaving. Lori looks not too happy. The jury comes back in. Detective Ray is back on the stand. Lori stands as the jury comes in. She has been crying, her arms crossed, and doesn't look up. Detective Ray puts together a chart with photos, names to help the jury keep track of who's who. They show the key figures: Lori Charles, Alex Shadd, Tammy Tiley, and Melanie Neese. Another exhibit shows dates, times, and events related to the case. 9/2 to 3/19, the move to Rexburg. 9/8/19, last proof of life, Tiley. 9/22/19, last proof of life, JJ. 10/2/19, Brandon shot at. 10/9/19, Tammy shot at. 10/19/19, Tammy murdered. And Charles' murder was 7/11/19. So all within 4 months, this all happened. Detective Ray also put together an investigation timeline. Photos of the pet cemetery and burial site for Tiley is about to be shown. They show the pet cemetery and fire pit overall photo. Soil looks different. As they dug, we see clumps of rotted charred flesh and bone fragments. Close-up of tissue and bone, melted green bucket with flesh and bone, organs not completely burned, and a partial skull. They show a close-up of the partial skull. They had to get on their hands and knees to dig. The smell was so bad they could only work a few minutes. They also found a part of a jawbone under the bucket. They tried to remove a mass of flesh. They show the moist soil. They dug deeper and found teeth. I said that. I guess they're going over it again. They show what was inside the bucket: charred bone and flesh, top of a skull, eye sockets. Lori is looking down at the table. She hasn't looked up for a solid 10 minutes. On June 10th, they dropped JJ and Tylee's remains in the Ada County Coroner's office and will come back for autopsy on June 11th. They met with the medical examiner on June 11th and briefed them on what they were about to go through. They dressed up and they already signed in. The staff brought out the body bag with JJ's remains. They opened the bag, took photos, and cut into the plastic bags to reveal the remains. Detective Ray saw a little boy in red pajamas, a white plastic bag around his head, duct tape from chin to forehead, arms duct taped with several layers, and his feet were bound. I know, it's disgusting. They're literally just, I don't know who's worse. Them, I mean, they're all like on an equal level terrible between Letitia and them. There was a child's blanket on top of him. They cut the bag on top of JJ's head. Underneath the bag was duct tape from jawline to jawline. They cut the duct tape away from his hands and arms. That exposed more duct tape. He stayed for the whole autopsy. After the duct tape was removed, he recognized the body was JJ. His PJs were wet from decomp. He had a pull-up diaper. JJ had visible bruising on his arms. After the autopsy, the pathologist brought in Tylee's remains. He undid the body bag, and the pathologist said there wasn't anything he was going to do that evening, so they left and would come back the next day. They're going to show the autopsy photos. This is hitting Larry Woodcock very hard. He is sobbing, which is so sad, and I'm glad he was in there. I thought he wasn't allowed to be in there, but jurors are emotional. Some are crying. No words. Detective Ray transported items from the autopsy to the ID State lab on June 12th. They didn't do anything further with Tylee's remains in Ada County. Mr. Thomas is up for the defense. November 1st, Detective Ray was contacted by Fremont County about the Jeep. He contacted Gilbert PD in Arizona to get more info. Thomas asked about intermittent surveillance. He had them under surveillance for 2 weeks, around 15 hours total. They found the Jeep on November 4th. Thomas asked if it was a stakeout. Ray says, we took photos and parked and watched to give Gilbert PD any intel they could. We saw Chad and Lori together November 1st, but not after that. Mr. Thomas asked about how long he stayed each time. Detective Ray said it depended on what they had going on with no set schedule. The first time Detective Ray in Rexburg heard of JJ was over November 18th when Gilbert PD came to the infotainment center information on the Jeep. Lori is turned with her chair almost facing Archibald. She's kind of leaning to one side and looking down. Detective Ray was asked why he got a search warrant for the townhomes, and he said based on the family friend's story being a lie, with Melanie Gibbs saying that she had JJ and she didn't. Thomas questions when this happened, and Detective Ray said that night they knew JJ wasn't with Melanie Gibb. Thomas says on direct, you said something different. Detective Ray said, if you remember, I testified we were on our way to get the warrant, and Lori called, so we went back to talk to her. Thomas says, so what was the crime? You went to get a warrant based on a hunch? He said, no, for lying about the whereabouts of JJ. Lori looks like she's taking a nap. You said the last proof of life for Tylee was 9/8/19. Isn't it true you had hundreds of tips coming in for the whereabouts in the months after? He said, we never had a credible tip. Thomas saying, you didn't follow up on every tip. And Ray said, true. So I guess he didn't follow up on every tip. Thomas says about Tammy Daybell, do you know Lori? I mean, what does it matter? They found the bodies. Like, why would they have to follow up on the tips when the bodies were in Chad's yard? I mean, that just sounds like a ridiculous question. Thomas says about Tammy Daybell, do you know Lori was on October 19th? Or do you know where Lori was on October 19th? He says Hawaii. Thomas says she was nowhere near Tammy when she died. When you searched the property on June 9th, you got there around 7 a.m., and this wasn't a spur of the moment thing. It was planned, and Detective Ray said yes for weeks. Thomas asked how many times you have done a search with the FBI, and you were kind of helping them out. He says 5-6 times. Thomas says when the search warrant was going on at Chad's, he says you can't say for sure what he was looking when he was over his shoulder. Detective Rice said he was looking at the tree. Thomas said we can agree to disagree. Yeah, I agree, Risk. We shouldn't. I think it's sad that the death penalty. I'm mad that the death penalty is off the table for her. Is the death penalty off the table for T? I can't remember. Thomas asked if he was alone sifting through the fire pit, and he said there were people directing and helping. He asked how they took the soil from JJ's grave. They said a shovel. What kind of shovel? I don't know. How much dirt was taken off the first? An inch. Judge Boyce stops Thomas and says it's time to adjourn. Afternoon thread. Detective Rice still on direct. Lori's in the courtroom waiting on judge and jury. We've been told the next round of photos. Oh, didn't I read that already? The graphic ones? Oh, that might be it then. Oh, because it was pinned. So yeah, that is day 2. So that's it. It's crazy, isn't it? I had a lot of information today about everything and how brutal these people were. Clearly, Lori is making Alex her fall guy. And it doesn't surprise me. I think she perfectly planned this out so that she wasn't around when this stuff happened. I think she was a master manipulator. And I will say this, I think she had a sexual relationship with Alex as well. Because from the stories that I've heard about Alex saying that his ex-wife, or Alex's ex-wife saying they had a creepy relationship and that he would touch her boobs and her butt and say how hot she was and bounce her up and down on his lap and stuff like that. And his brother said that he would often go out to Thailand's red light district and take a whole week off so we could go, mess with prostitutes all week. I mean, the guy obviously, in my opinion, had a sex addiction or something. And I think Lori manipulated him that way. I mean, it's just crazy to me that this guy would be so willing to kill his own niece and nephew, his niece's ex-husband, Charles. I mean, this Alex they had Alex, in my opinion, kill everybody besides Tammy. He tried to kill Tammy, but he failed. And I just have a hard time believing he died from natural causes. I wonder if there's some way that could have, something they did to make him get a blood. I don't know, but it's just so weird to me that he conveniently died, right around the time, this, everything going down, and he's the fall guy, But regardless, they were conspirators, and I think Lori planned a lot of this out. And I mean, you could hear the anger in her voice when she was excited to get that money from Charles. I feel like they had this all planned out. And it's just horrific hearing all of these terrible things they did. It was just, but they do have audio if you guys want to listen to the audio. And I'm not going to do the Gannon Stalk recap tonight, but I will just run a couple things down from that real quick if you guys didn't see it. The most notable thing of the day was, I think his name's Brandon Lowry. T's brother was on the stand, and he talked about going to Colorado because they were sure that T was innocent and would never do such a thing. I don't know, Risk. But they were sure that Ashley Banfield, now I'm saying Ashley Banfield because I read it. They were sure that Letitia would never do such a thing and that she was innocent and she was being painted as a criminal. So they went out to support her, and they also wanted to look for Gannon. They got a hotel. They met her right after she had the run-in with the police at Marshall's when she threw her keys in the air like a psychopath and ran. And then they met her right after that. They went and got a hotel. And then she said they wanted to get all their things from the house. So they went and got all their things from the house and packed it in a like a moving van. Then his aunt rented also a Nissan Altima. They went back to the hotel, and Letitia says, I'm going to go get dog food. And she disappears for a long time. And then her brother's like, well, this is weird. She's been gone for a really long time. It doesn't feel right, you know? So he calls his wife and he says, like, you know, this doesn't feel like right. She's gone for a long time. So anyway, they all decide to drive back together, and she says she's going to go to Myrtle Beach. And at some point, they plan on splitting up. I think they have to drop one of the vans off and get a new one. So what they do is they go drop the van off, and then they have to change everything from the one van to the other van. And he said he saw that she was struggling with with a suitcase. She was struggling to carry it, and he thought it was strange. And he asked her if she needed help, and she wouldn't let him help him. And he asked her what was in there, and she said softball stuff. And he said it was very notable to him. It was strange to him. And he was a little weirded out by it. And then they split up. And he said once he found out that they found Gannon in the suitcase, he knew it was her immediately. And he said that it caused a lot of shame to the family, and it's embarrassing, and that they look like criminals, and he can't understand. And then they asked him about his father, because he's claiming that she went into some psychotic episode because it reminded of getting like raped by her stepfather or whatever, which he died in 2004 by getting hit by a car, which was the excuse she used to get out of work that day. Well, anyway, they asked him if he knows of things that he could have done to Letitia. He says, not that I know of. I think I would have found out. My mom's super protective of us. But then when he's under cross, they say, did your dad beat on your mom? And he said, yeah. But he didn't say anything about like SA. Like there was nothing they knew about SA or whatever. And he said that his mom was a great mom to them, and she always shows her kids first, things like that. So then he broke down when they asked about the suitcase and what was in the suitcase, and he cried a little bit. And then before he left, he yelled across the courtroom to Letitia, "Why, T?" Like upset and angry. For the rest of the day, they pretty much talked about the trucks, the budget truck people. They took pictures of the truck. It was a lot of things like that. It wasn't, I wouldn't say there was a lot of like good information besides Letitia's brother's testimony, but I think I'm going to do like a quick recap. If you guys haven't seen, I did a quick 24-minute recap of, I don't know if I put date of the last 2 days, 3 and 4, I guess, because this would have been 5, or was this 6? I don't know, but the last 2 days before this day, I did just a 24-minute quick pre-record. If you guys are like behind, you can watch that to catch up. And I'm going to do another one of them for that, I think, just because I think that this day really wasn't, it wasn't like the other days in my opinion, but I'll still do a recap. And then also, oh, you know what? I did 4 and 5. Okay. I'll share. I'm going to hold on to this and I'll share it guys later. It's just, I don't want to say something too premature, but, I am trying to keep up the best I can. There's been some really like a bad family tragedy that just happened recently, and we're all kind of like dealing with things as they come, and I don't really know like if I'm gonna run into things one day or not. So I'm doing the best I can to keep up, and if I don't show up for like a day or two and have to catch up, it's because of that. But other than that, thank you, LFT. I appreciate it. But other than that, I'm gonna end it, and I'll do a pre-record of that and put it out if you guys want to catch it. And I know, Linda. I mean, it's not something that's just like like we're like. I can still, do things, but I don't know if I'm gonna like run into unforeseen things. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But I appreciate it, and thank you guys. And sorry, they're probably going to be like impromptu lives that I just throw up because I'm just kind of like all over the place right now. But I appreciate you guys so much, and I will try and make sure I recap, everything. Oh, and I'll try and do a West pre-record, the Orrin Norson West pre-record too. There's a lot of trials going on at one time. But yeah, I'll definitely try and do that too. And I will talk to y'all later. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.